I see what this is. Fine. I will sing both halves of Baby It's Cold Outside because I don't
see
want
what
any
this
of
is.
my online friends depressed.
I really can't stay.
But baby, it's cold outside.
This evening has been
Been hoping you'd drop in.
so very nice.
I'll hold your hands, they're just like ice.
My mother will start to worry.
Beautiful, what's your hurry?
My father will be pacing the floor.
Listen to the fireplace raw.
So really I'd better scurry.
Beautiful, please don't hurry.
But maybe just a half a drink more.
Put some records on while I pour.
Say, what's in this drink?
It's the anti-checker.
We will return to your scheduled programming shortly, or we are currently experiencing technical difficulties.
Thank you, Bird of Prey. Gosh, dang it! I can't believe it. What I was. It's funny because I was actually just saying how out of it I was because I didn't sleep well last night. So I apologize for pulling a Bird of Prey. One of these days, I'm gonna get over that. Oh man. So Carlo was first. Piano Dean says first. Bradley says up everybody. Resolute says good morning. Bird of Prey says kapla. Piano Dean says I assume because of the fine music. Carlo says, hope you're well, and everybody else is well, too. Thank you, Carlo. Joseph says, Merry pre-Christmas, and Bird says, Advent. What the heck is Advent? Well, actually, Advent, Bird, is on the Christian calendar the 4 Sundays prior to Christmas. So today is the last Advent Sunday. Now, our church actually only has one Advent service. Some churches do have Advent services throughout the Advent month. But our church, we just do it the week before Christmas. We call that the service before Christmas. We call that our Advent service. If Christmas happens to fall on a Saturday or Sunday, that night or morning is still called just an Advent service. The word Advent simply means arrival of something notable. And so if you actually look up the definition of Advent, it is let's see, that's not it. That's when I was looking up something else. All right, so Advent, the arrival of a notable person, thing, or event. The first season of the Christmas church year leading up to Christmas, including the 4 preceding Sundays. Now, an example is the advent of television, right? That would be the time that television was invented. The coming or second coming of Christ was also called the Advent. So there you go. Piano Dean says, it really appears to me as though the Phantom Menace has given in to hate. Sadly, I got to agree with you. I don't want to agree with you, but I really got... Not everybody. For example, I spent about 4 hours on a Midnight's Edge stream, and I had a great time. Me and Andre, the guy who runs Midnight's Edge, were the only ones that were giving The Rise of Skywalker any credibility at all. And Andre he even gave it a negative review, but he was just admitting that there were good things about it. And Andre gave it a 4 out of 10. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Everybody else was giving it like a 1 or 2 out of 10. And we were fighting passionately, but the other people on the panel were very cordial and polite, but I can't say that to as far as many of the people in the chat. I can't even tell you how many Twitter messages I've gotten that have just been absolutely vile, and it's really sad. It is really kind of sad that so many in the Fandom Menace are. It's okay if you didn't like the movie. Don't get me wrong. If you hated the movie, I have no problem with that. But those that simply want to spew out hatred, whether directed at someone who likes the movie or even someone like J.J. Abrams. Look, I get it that J.J. Abrams did not make a perfect movie with The Rise of Skywalker. However, and what I was saying, and Andre actually confirmed a lot of this as far as that he had certain limitations he had to work within. He couldn't just dismiss The Last Jedi. He couldn't pretend it didn't happen. This was a direct sequel to The Last Jedi. He also couldn't split this into multiple movies, and so he was forced to do this all in one film. It would have been a lot better had he been able to break it up. He basically had his hands tied. He was forced to make a sequel to the worst Star Wars movie ever made. And not only did he have to make a sequel to the worst Star Wars movie ever made, but this movie had to cap off a trilogy. And not only did it have to cap off a trilogy, but it had to cap off the third trilogy in a trilogy of trilogies. This was like an impossible task for the man. And I think that for what he was given, he did a pretty good job. Now, I think he could have made a couple of decisions much better, which I've talked about, but I think overall he did a pretty good job with what he had to work with. Mercer says, today is my birthday. Is today your birthday, Mercer? Well, happy birthday, my friend. I did not know that. Okay, so there's a few people saying that I forgot to turn on the video or the audio. Bird of Prey says no one here slept well last night. I think I don't know about that. It wasn't the Rise of Skywalker that kept me up. It was my knee. But so Bird says happy birthday to Mercer. Oh my God, I have no wrench here. Well, you do now. I fixed that. Richie says hello. Mercer says I think someone told me that I'm a secular person. Well, secular simply means without God, without religion. So if you're not a religious person, then yes, by nature you are secular. And in fact, Christmas is a secular holiday. Christmas is a legal United States secular holiday. However, the subject of said holiday is to celebrate, and this is what the actual documents in the federal government say, to celebrate the philosophy of Christ. I was working last night, still have not slept, and it's two here in the UK. Wow, Carlo, I'm sorry, my friend. Get some rest, man. I slept like a baby last night, woke up 5 times crying. Just kidding, slept really well. Not Ryan Johnson is here, says hello in YouTube land. How you doing? Piano Dean says I slept well, but got up earlier than normal. Normally would have, so I could go to bed earlier tonight, so I can successfully leave here earlier Monday morning for my drive to Mississippi. You and I are both going to be on the road on Monday. I know I've talked about this on the other channel, but tomorrow, Monday, December 23rd, is in fact me and Mrs. Auntie Trekker's 26th wedding anniversary. And so, by the way, that tattoo right there on my wrist is the Hebrew symbol for the number 23. We got married on December 23rd. This particular tattoo, me and Mrs. Auntie Trekker both have a matching tattoo on our wrists for the number 23 that we got on December 23rd on our 23rd wedding anniversary. So tomorrow we are getting up. I'm going to do a morning live stream. After the morning live stream, we're going to drive down to Atlanta, Georgia, and we are going to go to Medieval Times for dinner. Then on Christmas Eve, we're going to get up really early, drive down to Jacksonville, Florida, visit with my father-in-law for probably just a couple of hours, and then drive all the way back to Tennessee. And the reason we're doing that is because he's been in the hospital the last couple of weeks. Those of you that are believers, please keep him in your prayers. He had a growth on his lung that they surgically removed, but he has not been doing well since then. And we're very worried about him. He is not in the greatest of health. And I will tell you that Mrs. Antitrekker, keep her in your prayers as well. She's kind of walking on a razor's edge right now because, you know, she lost her sister, she lost her mother, and now her dad is sick. And so, and so that's just not good. Valor says, good morning. How you doing, my friend? The Midnight Edge stream was good and civil. The chat was poisonous. Agreed. There was a couple of people in the chat that were just venomous, and I tell you, I called it out once, but I tried to leave it alone most of the time. It was just getting really bad with that, and I don't understand that. I really don't. Jeff says, are there spoilers for the movie here? Well, I'll tell you what, we'll take it to a vote. And so put, if we're going to talk about, because it's a political, there's some political stuff there, and I don't mind talking about it on this channel. Put a 1 in the chat if you're good with spoilers. Put a 2 in the chat if you don't want spoilers, and we'll see what the totals come out to. Aberjam says, greetings, brother. Sorry to hear the crap you've been getting. Hope it's the vocal minority. Oh, it's absolutely the minority. I mean, as far as the people I interact with in the Phantom Menace have been nothing but kind to me. At least the ones that I've talked to. I haven't been able to get a hold of Gary Nerdrotic yet. I've been wanting to talk to him. And I'm okay with a passionate discussion. I'm okay with you know, a little bit of yelling. I'm not okay with things like you know, you're an asshat and you're fat because you don't like this movie. You know. Every day has different likes and dislikes, even if they like most things even if they like most of the things you like. No need to hate over them if that doesn't affect them. Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. And I know that I'm in the minority here, but I'm also tired of people calling J.J. Abrams Jar Jar. I know that a lot of people on my channel do it. I will ask you not to do it. If you do, I'm not going to kick you off the channel or anything, but I find that really grating. And the reason I find it grating to call J.J. Jar Jar is J.J. Abrams, while I would agree he's not a great writer, is a competent director. He is not solely responsible for the crap that we've gotten in Star Wars. If you look at The Force Awakens, and I rewatched these movies over the last couple of days, Force Awakens, with a couple of tweaks, could have been pretty darn good. And as it is, was not a bad movie. I would put it on, you know, it was just that they kind of botched the ending a little bit by having Rey beat Kylo. And they gave Rey just a little too much skill. She should have been toned down a bit. But if you had done those two things, it would have been an excellent movie. Then you get to The Last Jedi, which completely took a massive dump on the franchise. And now JJ's called back in to try and fix it. An impossible task, and he does as good as he possibly can with it. And everybody is calling him a hack. They're talking about how horrible it is, how he's ruined the Star Wars franchise. And it's like, dude, he's trying to pick up the pieces of the Star Wars franchise, not destroy it. And I think for what he did a pretty good job. Don't mistake the Phantom Menace for the creeps that just jump from the hate mob to hate mob. That's true. There are people like that. I think director's cut with additional footage can improve the movie. I also, I could not see it because someone called a bomb alarm in the cinema. Of course, it's a false alarm. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, the first 30 minutes are edited very poorly, and you can tell it was cut for time. And that was probably another thing that was imposed on JJ, because directors almost never cut things just for time unless they are told to by their studio overlords. Mercer says, TYSM. I have no idea what that means. Happy birthday. I hope you are having a good day. Says Carlo to Mercer. Valor says, I agree, although I can easily say everyone attacking you are Jeremy's Geeks and Gamers fans. They're the most deranged of the Phantom Menace, though you handled yourself very well. Thank you, Valor. I don't know if they were Jeremy fans or not. It doesn't matter. You know, what channels they subscribe to, I don't care. I just know that those people are kind of pathetic. In fact, I had this one person, this guy Graham. He sent me like about 20 tweets last night. And the last one was just so laughable, I actually had to respond to that one. I didn't respond to any of the others. But what he said is, and I'm actually reading this verbatim. Antitrekker, I normally try to be polite in disputations, and I will give you this one-time chance because you don't know me, you lard-ass STP reject. Be nice. This is from Graham Strauss. And I don't know what kind of dickhead Graham wants to be, but whatever. And so I responded to him, says, I'm sure you think of yourself as quite funny. I just see it as pathetic. Take care. And I will not be responding to anything else he has to say. So, yeah. Then anyway, Mercer says, I agree with you about The Rise of Skywalker. It was a mess, too many MacGuffins, but at least it felt like an adventure. Yeah, that's the thing. I am not suggesting that it was a perfect movie at all. It was definitely a mess. I think that the scavenger hunt could have been toned down. I think that the ending should have been reversed, but it at least it felt like a Star Wars movie. Honestly, it just felt like kind of a messy one. Trek95 says, hello, how you doing, my friend? Did you hear that Cats is doing something never before done? The studio is shipping new prints with better visual effects. Well, you know what? I have a feeling, Mercer, no offense to my friends that made Cats, but that movie looks like a frickin' train wreck, and it's not my forte. I don't really care. Medieval Times was entertaining, I suppose, just a hair shy of being a tourist trap. We've been to Medieval Times before, Mercer. We went to Medieval Times like around our 10th wedding anniversary, and so... so it's something that Mrs. Antchecker has been wanting to go back to for a long time. It's fun. Yes, it is a tourist trap. It certainly is. It's nothing, but it's still fun. Medieval Times still going strong. Haven't been there for some years. Yeah, actually, when we went for our 10th anniversary, there was only a couple of them. Now there's like a dozen of them. You're driving that far just to go to Medieval Times? Yes, because Mrs. Antchecker wants to go to Medieval Times, and we were going to actually stay local. We were thinking about just going to the nicest restaurant in our area and, just having a nice quiet evening. However, then Mrs. Antchecker's dad got sick. And so we decided, you know what, we really want to get a chance to, get a chance to see him, especially if he's not long for this world. So we decided, well, we need to get down to Jacksonville, and we only have a couple of days. So what can we do that's like on the way to Jacksonville? And so that's what we decided to go to Medieval Times. Valor says, you handled yourself like, in my opinion, as a Christian should be. Well, thank you, Valor. I appreciate that. Link to the chat about The Rise of Skywalker. Well, it's on Midnight's Edge. I don't have the link to that particular video. All right, so it looks like everybody is voting for spoilers except for Carlo. Carlo, I'm so sorry, my friend. If you really don't want to hear any spoilers, I would suggest, as much as I love you, don't abandon ship on this stream. Even though I would rather have you around, I understand if you need to move on, because I didn't want to get any spoilers before seeing the movie. Although I did, most of the leaks ended up being true, so I kind of knew stuff that I didn't want to. Bird of Prey says, I personally don't care. We'll vote with the underdog. Well, Bird of Prey doesn't care, so yeah, that's... Sounds like Midnight's Edge could use a couple of good chat moderators unless they encourage toxic behavior in the chat. I don't think they encourage it. I think that, unfortunately, most of the larger channels out there, Midnight's Edge is one of them, because the Midnight's Edge main channel, which is what we were having this conversation on, is 140 or so thousand subscribers strong. I mean, we had over, at one point, we had 1,800 people in the chat, which I've never been part of a live stream that big, except for on Nerdrotics. And the problem is, it's almost impossible to moderate a chat that size. And the people in the conversation, they pretty much ignore the chat except for the when the super chats come up. And I disagree with that philosophy, but it's how they do it. But the thing is, if it's a panel discussion, I understand. Obviously, I'm talking to you guys, so even if we had 1,000 people in the chat, while I wouldn't be able to read every single chat, I would still be, reading stuff from the chat the whole time. But if I had 5 other people on the panel with me, obviously I got to give those people the attention, and I get that. But that's not how I would regularly do shows. But a lot of people do. Piano Dean says it gets old. Murder Prey says Kaplata Carlo. Piano Dean says I'm okay with Jar Jar Johnson. So you're okay with Ryan Johnson? Is that what you're saying, or J.J. Abrams? I'm not sure. Bird Prey says JJ equals Star Trek 2009. Door for Star Trek Discovery, the man who killed Star Trek. Don't get me wrong. and I've said this before, I do not appreciate JJ's writing style. I really don't. I appreciate his directing style. And Star Trek 2009 is not a poorly directed film. And by the way, neither is Star Trek Into Darkness. The two that JJ directed, I actually think are directed better than Star Trek Beyond or Star Trek Discovery, for that matter. Kurtzman is really the driving force behind Discovery. And yes, Kurtzman works for JJ, but Kurtzman is really the guy who's most responsible for Discovery. But here's the thing. Where I don't like JJ is as a writer. I think, because and JJ even said this during the production of Star Trek 2009. All of, anybody that was a hardcore Trekkie back then already knows this. But we were already nervous about Star Trek 2009 because JJ always said from the beginning that he was more of a Star Wars fan than Star Trek. And what did he do? He made a Star Trek movie that felt like it should belong in the Star Wars universe. Not that it was a bad movie, it was just didn't feel like Star Trek. And that's kind of what they did with STD as well, except STD is also bleak and dark and depressing. And they added more politics to it, which that's all from Kurtzman. But I do think that if I was going to hire just a director, if I was saying, here's the script, I want you to make this into a movie, I wouldn't mind hiring J.J. Abrams. JJ just needs adult supervision. Indeed, he does. I'm pretty sure the ships came out of the ocean about the same time stamp in both Into Darkness and Rise of Skywalker. That'd be funny to compare. Although it wasn't out of the ocean in Rise of Skywalker, and you know that, but that is kind of a funny comparison. Let's see. Valor says, I agree. Mercer says, thank you to Carlo. Bradley says, TYSM, thank you so much. Oh, okay. You're welcome. Mercer says, means thank you, stomach. Okay. Aberjam says, Anti-Trekker. Well, it's Rational Roundtable here, but Anti-Trekker, JJ did a terrible job on The Rise of Skywalker. All he focused on was throwing in member berries and digs at The Last Jedi to appease hardcore fans instead of just making a great movie. I disagree, Aberjam. Here's the thing. I do think that he was throwing in some member berries, but I think he was doing that because this was supposed to be the end cap of the entire whatever you call 9 films, 9 trilogy, right? And so, yes, he had to do callbacks to the prior films in order for that to work. He also needed to come up with a replacement for Snoke, and that's why he did the Emperor. And I think the Emperor actually worked well in this film. I think the Emperor was the best part of the film. And I think very well done, in fact. I think that the scavenger hunt needed to be cut shorter, and I think the very end should have been flip-flopped, and then it would have been a damn good movie. Bird of Prey says, Graham Strauss is Mama Praise Twitter. Oh, so it's your mom that's insulting me. Okay. The Far Side new website is up. Yeah, Mrs. Antrekker saw an article about that. I'm very excited. I can't wait. Bird of Prey says, I cried with Chewbacca. I did too, and that was a great moment. That Chewbacca, it's funny because Leia's death didn't really have that big of an emotional impact, and I think partially because we all knew Carrie Fisher was dead, and so but man, when Chewbacca cried, and it's funny because the only other time I really got the feels was in Chewbacca's scream when Han got killed was also very well done. All the positive things in life, or even a stream chat, it's the negative that stands out. And we remember we can cloud the good things. That's true. That does happen, and that's why like people like Graham. I'm not going to give him the time of day. If he wants to apologize for his behavior, I'll accept it. But other than that, I'm not interested in having a conversation with someone that's going to be that immature. I notice that YouTubers tend to draw like-minded people. Like you, for example, draw great people of all types and kinds, which feels like family. Well, thank you, Valor. I will take that as a compliment. But actually, that's true. I try. And that's the funny thing about my channel is, and I think that's the reason my channel is never going to be the largest channel on YouTube, but I try to get people with differing opinions so that we can actually have discussions about stuff. But you're right. Generally speaking, like everybody that's a subscriber, well, not everybody, but the vast majority of people that subscribe to Geeks and Gamers would agree with whatever Jeremy has to say. The vast majority of people that subscribe to Nerdrotic would agree with whatever Gary has to say, etc. Which the problem with that is it creates an echo chamber. And when you create an echo chamber, people tend to get more and more extreme. It's like if you get a bunch of average liberals into a room together and then you lock the doors, then after a few months, now you have an SJW crowd. If you take a bunch of average conservatives together, that you lock them in a room, and after a couple of months, you've got crazy right-wing, nut jobs. The nicest restaurant in Murfreesboro, the Lore Shack. Absolutely not. It's okay. It's just a film. It is just a film, Carlo. But the thing is, I understand the passion behind all that, because here's the thing. It's just a film like Star Trek is just a TV show. Star Wars has been part of the pop culture since 1977, and for a lot of people, it is important. It is legendary. It is our mythos. It is our Greek gods. And I certainly understand why people are genuinely upset, but they need to be upset about the right things and the right people. Blaming J.J. Abrams because he was handed a mess and did the best he can is just wrong. You need to look at the big picture. Really, if you're going to point the blame goes on two people, Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson, and mainly Kathleen Kennedy. Even though Rian Johnson is responsible for The Last Jedi, Kathleen Kennedy hired him and okayed it. And she was all for it, and she was the one that wanted politics inserted into Star Wars. Ballard says, rational. Jeremy, on the other hand, spews vile and anger and draws a like-minded people. Well, Jeremy does tend to get angry on his channel, and I don't like that. I've called him out on it before. It's funny because when he and I have discussed things on Nerdrotic's channel, he seemed like a perfectly nice guy, but he does come across as very angry all the time on his channel. Dr. Alex is in the house. Says, good morning, Anti-Trigger. Just popping in to say hi. Although I think your standards may have been slowly eroded by hours of discovery, I still respect your opinion and the right to hold it. Thank you, Doctor. And I assume you're talking about my horrific opinion that the Rise of Skywalker gets a 6 out of 10. I mean, I gave it a freaking 1 point higher than average. And people act like, oh, he loves the movie. That's another funny thing about the internet. Everything is extreme. It's either the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. There's nothing in between. Panel discussions are not communication with the chat, so I don't mind. Reading super chats is like saying thank you for the support. Yeah, and on a panel show, I'm okay with it. I don't think that it's wrong. Don't get me wrong, Joseph. I'm not suggesting that it's wrong the way that Midnight's Edge does that. I prefer to have the discussion with the audience. That's my preferred method. If I was to have a panel show, I wouldn't do it every day. I would have a panel show maybe once or twice a week, and the rest of the day I'd be talking to you guys. Steve is in the house. Good morning, liked and listening. Thank you, Steve. Antrigger, the Disney trilogy makes a little more sense if you treat Ben Solo as the main character instead of Rey. I agree with Stuckman. Ben's arc is the only consistent element. I agree too. I think Ben Solo should have. That's why I said, Aberjam, that I think the biggest mistake of this movie, the one place where, and this is JJ's fault, but it's a creative difference. If I was the executive producer, I would have basically said, no, JJ, you got to do this, and that is. The whole thing with Rey, with basically Ben saving Rey and then Ben dying, that was a mistake. Rey even though I would have played out the entire ending differently, if you had simply changed it so that Rey did not recover, that last shot of the film was, it was Ben sitting in front of his uncle's old home, bearing his uncle and his mother's lightsabers, and then when someone asks who he is, he says Ben Skywalker. That would have been the perfect ending. That absolutely would have been. And but I actually would have taken it a step further. I said before, I would have made Rey straight up evil in this film. I would have made Rey basically the Anakin of this trilogy. Steve says, good Lord's Day to you. Thank you, my friend, and welcome. Piano Dean says, rational oriented, but I'm saying I'm okay with calling Rian Johnson's Jar Jar Johnson, but I was just joking. There's a lot of alteration. Well, here's the I will say this. And I know some people have called him Ruin Johnson and stuff like that. If it's in good-natured fun, I can kind of take it from time to time. Like, gosh, if you've seen my Star Wars review, how many times did I say F you, Ryan Johnson? That being said, I am, I generally call him Ryan Johnson, just like I call J.J. Abrams, J.J. Abrams. I call Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Discovery. I don't tend to use those slurs because every time people do that. Now, I understand, like, if I'm typing and you put STD to shorten Star Trek Discovery and when you're typing it out, I have no problem with that. But when I'm talking about it, unless I'm reading what somebody said, I usually say Star Trek Discovery. And the reason I do that is that I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. I'm not trying to be insulting about it. I'm trying to stick to the facts. Bradley says that JJ makes great looking movies. The story are my avatar. Actually, there's some truth to that. But the problem, though, is that's why I said JJ shouldn't be writing movies. People need to hand JJ a good script and say, here, make this, rather than, hey, you get to write this story. Luke is in the house. How you doing, Luke? Steve says, agree, they should have made the story about Ben Solo or about Rey with good character buildups. Yeah. But the thing is, since they already made Rey overpowered, then I think making it about Ben would make that final battle much more interesting if Rey was the bad guy. Because we've seen Rey kick Ben's butt all over the place a couple of times already. So if Rey was now the villain and Rey is like invincible, now all of a sudden if you're rooting for Ben, you're like, holy crap, how is he going to beat her? Dr. Alex says, my reaction to coming out of seeing Star Trek 2009 was, well, I guess that's all we can expect from a modern audience to take. Then I realized later I was making excuses for a substandard movie. Well, you know what? I think the thing about that, Dr. Alex, is that, yes, Star Trek 2009 was a Star Trek movie made for the masses. That's the problem right there. Star Trek should not be made for the masses. Star Trek should be made for the Trekkies and Trekkers. And the problem is that the studios don't see that if they make Star Trek films for Trekkies and Trekkers, it's never going to make the kind of money that Star Wars does, right? Star Trek is never going to be the billion-dollar movies, but you will always have your core audience. Trekkies and Trekkers are the most devoted of fans in history. And if Star Trek Discovery was, in fact, genuine Star Trek, we would all be subscribed to CBS All Access right now, and we wouldn't even be bitching about it if we were getting good Star Trek. But instead, they're trying to make Star Trek appeal to a wider audience, which alienates the Trekkies. And the problem is they're not making it very good. And so, because and what happened? Star Trek 2009 was big and flashy. There was no Star Wars or anything at the time, and so everybody flocked to it and made a bunch of money. They made Into Darkness, and people saw that. But then by the time Beyond came out, people were tired of it, and it flopped. And so Star Trek is not about explosions. Luke says, Star Wars Rise of the Retcons. Well, they had no choice in that matter. I mean, let's be real. Valor says, normal Midnight's Edge, After Dark, and American Random never broke higher than a few hundred at best. I think it's just because so many main YouTubers and this brought them with their fans. Well, actually, it's because the regular Midnight's Edge channel is much larger. I don't know how they usually do. This is the first time I've been on a daytime Midnight's Edge stream. The After Dark, you're right, we usually only get a couple hundred. Abby says, good morning. Hey, Abby, first of all, let me say thank you. I got your Christmas card, and so thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And now I understand why you use that particular icon. Steve says, JJ is not Jar Jar. JJ only wishes he was the key, because whereas Jar Jar is the key to all of this, JJ is just the key to destroying all of this. Oh, but I do wish JJ all the best personally. I agree. And, I feel sorry for him right now because, man, imagine being the person that is constantly being called Jar Jar like that. And he's trying his best. And the other thing about it is that, and this is something that I really got into it with one person, because they kept saying how disrespectful this movie is to George Lucas and George Lucas's legacy, mainly talking about the ending. And then this person says, I can't believe that Jar Jar would do this. It's so disrespectful to George Lucas, right? And I told her straight up, you know what? You are being even more disrespectful to George Lucas right now by taking a character that George Lucas created and using that as a derogatory term to insult someone because they made a crappy movie. There is only one key to all of this, says Steve. Aberjam says, JJ didn't have to replace Snoke. He could have resurrected him with a Plagueis reveal or main focus on Kylo Ren. Maybe so, but the problem is he needed to pull in not just the fanboys, but the normies. And the normies wouldn't remember Darth Plagueis and stuff, because it was one line in one movie, and people don't have that kind of memory as far as the normies. We do, but yeah. Ryan Johnson also has a new movie, Knives Out, and the trailer actually looks good, and I liked also Looper. I liked Looper a lot. As far as Knives Out, not my thing, really. Mecha Random said it's actually not bad. So, there we go. A trolling douchebag wouldn't last long in this chat. We laughed him out of the room. That's true, and that's one thing I'm very proud of. Like, when we did get that spam attack, those of you that are moderators were all over it, and I really appreciate that. And so I count on you guys to keep it civil, and you guys do. And if this channel does, not this channel, but the Anti-Tracker channel, if it continues to grow, I will continue to depend on you guys being the good people that you are, and I know that we will continue to have fun. Steve says, I've not watched Rise of Skywalker. I'm good with the spoiler reviews. Cool. Jeff says, you are my favorite YouTuber. I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner. Oh, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. And here's what you do. Make sure that all your friends know about me, because that way they don't have to suffer without me, because I'm that awesome. I'm just kidding. I'm not that awesome. But if we get the channel to grow, my ultimate goal is, of course, to make this my full-time job and Mr. Miles' full-time job. Unfortunately, in about a week and a half, I have to go back to work. And so, you know, then we just have to do what we can until we can grow to that point. Carlos says, I'm okay about the spoilers. It's just a film. I'll probably forget before I see it anyway, because I've been up almost 20 hours. I understand, Carlo. Mercer says, The Mandalorian Episode 7, best cliffhanger since Best of Both Worlds. I cried at the Ugnaughts' fate. I did too, Mercer. Holy crap. And Mercer says, I can't leave a super chat here. No, but you can actually do a Streamlabs donation. If you look in the description below, you will see there is a link for Streamlabs. And that's because Rational Roundtable, this channel, is not monetized by YouTube, and I didn't think it ever would be. And honestly, it's because, well, the simple fact that this channel, we talk about politics and religions and all that, and so I don't figure that it'll ever be monetized. Piano Dane says, what would JJ do? Everyone says, Jeremy exaggerates his reactions for his Geeks and Gamers videos. He outright stated in a stream with Mad Max he gets views. Yeah, and that's the thing. If it works for him, great. But here's the problem I see, and I've said this before about Jeremy and others that do that, is that what do they do? Like, for example, the Skywalker saga is over. How long are you going to drag this out? How long are you going to just rail on Jar Jar Abrams, right? How long are you going to continue to do this to try and get views? It's going to eventually die out. And that's where I don't have to worry. I just tell you guys what my honest opinion is on stuff. I don't have to pander to you. But if you're a channel built on a one note song, then what are you going to do when people don't like that note anymore? Most of the movies seemed like JJ was trying to either throw Johnson under the bus or fan service to deflect any heat away from himself. I do think he was trying to retcon some of the stuff out of The Last Jedi, but that's because Resolute, and maybe you liked The Last Jedi, I did not. I think that stuff that he did to throw Johnson under the bus, so to speak, most of that was good. I like the fact that Luke actually stopped Rey from throwing the lightsaber. That was a great moment, because he basically, and then Luke saying that he was wrong by exiling himself to Ahch-To. I love that. And so that makes perfect sense to me. And I actually, it was an apology. Valor says, I keep trying anti-trigger when I'm trying to type out a message. Yes, I know, it's a habit because channels. If I say this STD, you say to you, it is only to speed up the reply time. That's fine, Trek95, and I will read it as you type it for the most part. But I said I'll even type it as STD to save time. I just, when I'm talking, if I'm giving a dissertation about Star Trek, I will refer to it as Star Trek Discovery because that is its title. Not Ryan John says, mob mentality rules. It's too easy to respond emotionally than it is to stop and think about the point someone is trying to make. We see it all the time. Unfortunately, that is true. SJW versus anti-SJW, theism versus atheism, the rage against Star Trek Discovery, and Star Wars is just next in line. I wonder what will be next when this dies down. Well, we have Star Trek Discovery Season 3 coming. We have Picard coming. The problem is that the thing is that what do you do if the studios actually listen? What if Star Trek Discovery Season 3 is awesome? What if Picard is awesome? What are these people going to do? Because they can't sit there and talk about how awesome it is because their whole career is built on hate. I don't know. But I'm hoping it is awesome. And I called out Nerdrotic on my prior stream because, and I'm going to use this in a video actually, is because Nerdrotic seemed upset that I wanted Rise of Skywalker to be a good movie. Well, guess what? Yes, I want everything to be good. I don't want it to be crap. I don't bank on being able to hate on stuff. Piano D says, I was particularly waiting for 2 reviews, JP at Egotastic Funtime and Brendan Malone from Left Foot Media. They both thought it was a mess. The movie is messy. I'm not going to lie. but I still enjoyed it. I think that it was a good faith effort, and I liked what they did with Palpatine. Star Wars, I have to agree, says Valor. I'm not sure exactly what you mean there, but Trek95 says the core audience should always be respected while including new aspects no matter the franchise. Yes, but the problem is that nowadays the Hollywood mantra is appeal to a larger audience, to widen the audience. And the thing is, first of all, with Star Wars already had mass appeal because Star Wars was already massively successful. You didn't need to change the elements of Star Wars to continue to make it successful. And what Kathleen Kennedy wanted to do was make Star Wars more appealing for girls without thinking about the fact that girls already liked Star Wars just fine the way it was. So Carlos says, actually Steve says the main difference better Disney Star Wars and George Lucas Star Wars that Disney George Lucas had a plan for each trilogy set, and it seems that Disney had no plan. Well, first of all, and Steve, I know it's force of habit, but please don't say Disney had no plan. It was Lucasfilm. These movies were made by Kathleen Kennedy. Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, when he finally stepped in and said enough is enough, we got The Mandalorian. And so The Mandalorian is the first thing that Disney dictated. As far as what we got from Lucasfilm for the 5 films they produced since Disney bought the franchise, those were all produced by Kathleen Kennedy. But you're right. They had no plan. Kathleen Kennedy made the biggest, and this is where, like, when I argue with people like Mr. Burnett about the relative competence of Kathleen Kennedy, and he wants to talk about what a great producer she is because of her incredible resume working on all these brilliant films. Like, she worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark and Jaws and E.T. and all this great stuff, and she's just so freaking awesome. I mean, she was on Jurassic Park as a producer. How could you possibly say... Because she made a freaking trilogy without having a clue as to what she was going to do. That's why I can say that. Kathleen Kennedy is an incompetent studio director, and she should be fired. The problem is that they can't fire her because she is a woman, and that is the honest truth of the situation. She is a feminist woman who tried to make Star Wars feminist, and so if they fire her, what's she going to do? She's going to say, it's the patriarchy trying to hold me down. So they got to wait till her contract's up and then quietly let her go. And so when that happens, I will be celebrating. Carlos says, it seems that there has to be a conflict for something or for humanity to try to overcome, but we should all respect each other's opinions and try to be civil. Yeah, but it's not going to happen. Now that it's over, do we know who Snoke was? Why is he even in Star Wars? Well, we get unfortunately, because of the way that Ryan dispatched Snoke, there's not much there except that Snoke was a creation of Palpatine. Abby says, you're welcome for the card. I really enjoyed your car reaction and appreciate your reviews. The rage reactions have been a little much and too intense. I agree. I think the rage stuff has been way over the top because this movie is not that bad. The normies were going to show up no matter what. You need to do is put some flashy explosions and they'll flock to the theater. Yeah, but the problem is that's what you're appealing to. You get Star Trek 2009. If you want good Star Trek, you need to write off the normies and just say we're going to have our core audience. We're going to make a movie for $50 million and make $150, $200 million on it, right? That's a good movie, right? You're not going to spend $250 million to make a movie to get $1 billion. That's not how Star Trek works. What was that? Oh, that's the church going live. Just want to make sure it wasn't something important. And Bird of Prey puts the link for the Streamlabs. Thank you, my friend. Plagueis could have been explained with 2-minute exposition. It's not like JJ is adverse to those. Normies would think is okay and Phantom would celebrate easy fix. Well, they do explain it. You see, I mean, they explain Snoke. Plagueis could have been explained with a 2-minute exposition, but the Emperor is someone that people know and someone that people fear, and I kind of liked it. I dug what they did with the Emperor. I thought it was cool. You may not. It didn't work for you. That's fine. That's just a matter of taste. But I think that bringing in Plagueis, well, that's what I thought Snoke was Plagueis, to be honest with you. And that may well have been the original intent, but since Snoke was taken out like a little, you know what, he had to come up with Plan B, and he decided, well, if Snoke is dead, well, we'll make him into a failed clone. And well, who could we be trying to clone? Hey, what about good old Palpy? See? Claim this channel's a church, you get tax exemptions. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. I really like that Ugnaught character, my favorite Disney Star Wars character. I like him too. Although, honestly, I like Baby Yoda better. Snoke failed miserably as the main bad guy. Well, he did under Rian Johnson for sure. I think he was intriguing in The Force Awakens, but then in The Last Jedi, he was a joke. You can tell YouTube is not Christian because Christians have never had a problem monetizing religion. Hello, just joking. No, actually, it's funny. YouTube doesn't like religion. It's in their terms. If you dig deep enough, you'll see in their terms. If you talk about religion, you can get demonetized just for that. And so that's why I do these streams on this channel, because you know what? Fine, YouTube, you can demonetize this channel all day long. And I don't talk about religion, at least not heavily, on the Anti-Tricker channel. Poor Snoke, says Steve. Valor says, I can't help but believe Jeremy is an actual fan, but a leech that latches onto what is popular and then jumps to the next thing. Well, here's the thing. And again, no disrespect to Jeremy. He's a brilliant YouTuber. He's made a ton of money doing this, and all credit to him. However, yes, Geeks and Gamers was not a nerd culture channel. Geeks and Gamers was a game channel, and they did video game reviews and stuff like that, and they weren't getting anywhere with it. But then all of a sudden, The Last Jedi hit, and they started attacking The Last Jedi, and all of a sudden their popularity exploded. And so then from that point, then they were doing because I started following him when he was growing like this to kind of see what was going on with them, because I was looking for channels to endorse, and they were actually smaller than me at the time. This was about the same time that I was pushing Nerdrotic and Mecha and others. And I was looking at his channel, and it's like he would alternate between video game stuff and Last Jedi stuff, and I just thought he was too negative, and so I left it alone. But his channel just exploded, and then he just started doing nothing but Last Jedi videos. Thomas says, hello, what are we attacking you for today? Oh, well, you guys are just attacking me to attack me. That's what you do. Resolute says, I don't really think JJ was trying to make a great movie. He was just interested in making sure he would be able to avoid most of the blowback. I disagree. I think JJ is a filmmaker. I think he wanted to make as good a movie as he could, but he was, I mean, think about it. If you are put into that position, and we don't know exactly how many restrictions he got from the studio, but we do know this much. We know that he had to make a sequel to The Last Jedi. He couldn't just write it off and say it was a bad dream or something. He had to do a direct sequel to The Last Jedi. That sequel had to also finish off this trilogy that now had zero direction, which that trilogy had to cap off 3 trilogies, right? So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2, you can't break it up into multiple movies, which means you have to set up your new villain and execute your entire story in one film. You basically have to condense a trilogy into one freaking movie because Rian Johnson effectively killed the trilogy. And then you also have to deal with all the unanswered questions from Force Awakens and Last Jedi, like who the hell is Rey? Why is she so powerful? Stuff like that. So taking all that into account, I think he did the best he could. Did he make every decision correctly? No. I've already talked about a couple that I think he should have done differently, particularly when it comes to Rey. But I think he did the best he could. I think he was trying to make a good movie. Carlos says, failing to plan is planning to fail. Yes, and that falls squarely on the shoulders of Kathleen Kennedy. I believe one reason people, it's funny because, you know, even we're talking about it, and it's like, this is not what we talk about normally on this channel, but that's okay. That's what you guys want to talk about, we'll talk about it. I believe one reason people say Disney Star Wars is because Disney owns Lucasfilm and they provide the financial backing. Yeah, I know. But that's a problem, Trek 95, is that people confuse ownership with direction, right? For example, most people know Google, right? And they know, and so Google is very hands-on with their control of YouTube. So like if YouTube and Google are technically different. YouTube is owned by Google. But Google controls everything YouTube does. Google dictates everything Google does, or everything YouTube does. Most people have no idea that Google is owned by a company called Alphabet. And so nobody says, oh, Alphabet just keeps doing this. No, they say Google or they say YouTube. And it's all about putting the blame where the blame is due. In the case of Star Wars, Disney has always done this. And if you look at Pixar, if you look at Marvel, and you look at Lucasfilm, Disney follows the same pattern. They buy a property, and for the most part, yes, they'll put in there, hey, do me a favor and do this and this and this when you get a chance. But for the most part, when they bought Pixar, they were like, continue to make Pixar movies and we'll fund it. They went to Marvel and said, continue to make Marvel movies and we'll fund it. And then they went to Lucasfilm. They said, continue to make Lucasfilm movies and we'll fund it. They are not interested. Disney is not interested in micromanaging all these major powerhouse studios. Marvel Studios is a massive undertaking, and they don't want to usurp Kevin Feige's job. They want Marvel to just continue to make a ton of money so that Disney can make a ton of money off of it. So I don't consider, you know, the MCU to be Disney Marvel, and most people don't. Most people just call it Marvel because that's what it is. Even though Disney owns Marvel every bit the same way Disney owns Lucasfilm. But Marvel is still making Marvel movies. Kevin Feige is still in charge of the Marvel Universe. Nobody gives Bob Iger credit for the Marvel Universe. They give it to Kevin Feige, and that's where the credit is due. And the same thing is true of Lucasfilm. The credit belongs, or lack thereof, belongs to Kathleen Kennedy, not by Bob Iger, because she has been running Lucasfilm. And by the way, Kathleen Kennedy was going to be running Lucasfilm even if Disney had not made that purchase, because George Lucas had already installed her to take his place. Ryan Johnson says, Kathleen Kennedy can have a great resume. Doesn't mean she can't make bad decisions. Well, she has a great resume, but she hasn't really done anything. That's the funny thing. She has a great resume on paper, but her actual work experience is crap. She has been a producer working next to Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and other greats in Hollywood. She has never actually done the work herself as far as being the person in charge. She's never been the Steven Spielberg behind a film. She's always been Steven Spielberg's assistant. She is, and as such, and this is something I got into with Burnett about, but it didn't seem to click in his head. So Kathleen Kennedy, as a producer, her job was basically to make things happen, right? So Spielberg wants to make a shot in Times Square of a Tyrannosaurus Rex eating people, right? And so he goes to Kathleen Kennedy and says, I need to book Times Square to shoot a scene. We're going to probably need a week. So then Kathleen Kennedy goes to New York City and says, we need to book Times Square, and makes all the arrangements, all right? That's her job. She's really good at making those kind of, you need to get a beach. All right, well, we'll talk to the people over at Pismo Beach and see if we can rent the place out. You know, she does that kind of thing. She is the assets coordinator. She gets everything together. She makes all the arrangements. She makes sure the caterers are there. She makes sure that everybody's paid. She does all that administrative crap. That's a lot of hard work. And if I needed someone to do that, Kathleen Kennedy is a genius at that. What she doesn't do is anything creative. She has nothing to do with the brilliance of Jurassic Park or E.T. or Raiders of the Lost Ark or any other movie she's been on. What she's responsible for is renting the sets, is hiring the caterers, is making sure payroll goes through and all that. And so, but people want to say she's this great, great person because she's worked on these great films. You know what? There's accountants that worked on all those films too. It doesn't mean you put that accountant in charge of making a new Star Wars movie. Abraham says, explain to me why Palpatine wasn't dead already, why he needed a puppet Snoke, why he didn't stop his force lightning as it killed him. Then I might agree, done well. Okay, so one at a time. Why Palpatine wasn't dead already? He was. His essence was transferred into a clone that is established in the movie. Why he needed a puppet Snoke? Because he was not ready to take over. He was not physically capable of taking over. He needed to absorb the force energy of someone in order to actually be physically capable of doing the job himself. And apparently Snoke was failed attempts at creating clones of himself. Why he didn't stop his Force lightning as it killed him. The same reason he didn't stop his Force lightning when Mace Windu attacked him. It doesn't work that way. He hit her with all the deadly force. She takes it and reflects it back at him, and he didn't have a defense for it. Just like he didn't when Mace Windu hit him, which is why he got scarred in the first place. By the way, notice he wasn't scarred up this time. Why wasn't he scarred up like he was? Because he was a clone. Richie says, the church is going live, nothing important. Actually, it's not that. I went to church last night. Anti-Trekkerism. What about the Mandalorian? What I like about the Mandalorian is that there's no destiny stuff. The narrative is clean. Anyone can follow it. There's there's also some whimsy that has not been matched since the original films. I really like the Mandalorian overall. I want to see the Mandalorian go up against a Force user, though. I think that would be cool. Valor says Trek was never about major action, but more mental, and dang it, that was what made it awesome. Yes, and the thing is, and this is another thing that kind of pisses me off about this whole narrative about Rise of Skywalker. People are like, oh well, JJ just put some flash and explosions and battles. What the hell do you think Star Wars is? Star Wars is an action franchise. All right, Star Trek is not, but Star Wars clearly is. From the very beginning, the very first thing we ever see in Star Wars is an action scene. Star Wars is meant to be exciting and kinetic and explosive. That's what Star Wars is. So do not bitch about the fact that there are explosions in Star Wars, because if there weren't, it would be Star Trek. Mercer says, Nermal meowed at me for my birthday. Well, that's good. I'm glad Nermal still loves you. Jeff says, so if you talk about the religion in the TOS episode Bread and Circuses, then can you be demonetized? I don't know, because that's an interesting episode, because they do actually get into Christianity in a very interesting way in that episode, because of the fact that they simply, and it's really the only direct reference to Christ in Trek, but they just treat him like he's matter of fact. Of course he's real, which I thought was interesting, which I understand why some people find that offensive, but I don't. Yeah, but people know and fear the Emperor. We didn't know him or Vader in 77, but we still feared him and loved the movie. Your explanation isn't weighty reason for the Emperor, in my opinion. Well, I understand that, Aberjam, but you know what? If you have to, here's the thing. You have to, in one movie, you have to repair the damage from The Last Jedi and try to set up something exciting for people and have some kind of finality to everything. This is not the time to introduce a brand new big bad that's and say, oh, this guy was really behind it the whole time. But with the Emperor, you can say, people would buy that the Emperor was behind the scenes with Snoke. But if you brought in Plagueis, people would be like, oh, what a cheap move to bring in Plagueis now. And that's honestly what they would have done, Aberjam. The Phantom Menace would have been bitching about Plagueis was a cheap move because they brought him in at the last minute. Which, of course, the problem is that since they didn't plan the trilogy out in advance, we'll never know. Mercer says, I miss John Schnepp. Amen. Met him twice. He was amazing. John Schnepp was a great member of the nerd community. I would be very curious to see what John Schnepp thought of The Rise of Skywalker, to be honest with you. I think he probably would have felt more along the lines of me. I think he would have said it's messy, but it's a fun mess. Jeremy lashed on to world-class BSers to leech off them to help him grow. Then he lashed on to Gary and Doomcock, now trying to do the same, and he knows his days are numbered. I don't know about that, Valor. I just know that he's a little too, I could never take my channel that negative, but at the same time, I congratulate him for his success because he seems like a genuinely nice guy when you talk to him. So that is why mega companies diversify, to spread out and dilute the blame. In a sense, yes. But in the case of Disney, Disney has been buying these companies because they saw the streaming wars coming a long time ago. I'm wondering how many are going to stay with Disney Plus when Mando is over. Good question. I think that Disney Plus, it's really going to depend on when they get their next big original series. Because, besides Mandalorian, they have a couple other Star Wars series that they're working on, and a couple of Marvel series that sound really interesting, like a Hawkeye series. They're doing a Vision and Scarlet Witch series that's going to be called WandaVision. They're doing a Falcon and Winter Soldier series. All these things sound really good, but they don't have them out yet. So honestly, I don't know what their plan is. But when The Mandalorian is over, I hope that within a couple of weeks they have whatever the next big thing is. Whether it be The Falcon and the Winter Soldier or WandaVision or Obi-Wan or whatever. They need to have something in the can because they've got to keep the roll going. Right now, Disney Plus is doing much, much better than CBS All Access, and it's definitely leeching subs from Netflix. So I think that Disney Plus has a chance to win the streaming wars, but they've got to stay on their game. I don't know. If they don't have something within a couple of months, they're going to sink. Aberjam says, if Disney doesn't micromanage, was it Fox that vaulted most of their own back catalog? Disney didn't fix Marvel because it doesn't need fixing, but it's still their project. I'm not sure what you mean by, was it Fox that vaulted most of their own back catalog? What are you talking about? But first of all, the Fox merger was not the same as the Lucasfilm or Pixar or Marvel mergers, right? With Lucasfilm, Pixar, and Marvel, they're all the same. Lucasfilm is still intact. It just belongs to Disney. Marvel is still intact. It just belongs to Disney. Pixar is still intact. It just belongs to Disney. Fox did not sell the company to Disney. Disney does not own Fox. Instead, Fox decided that they were no longer going to produce fictional content. They're still going to do news and they're still going to do sports, but they're not doing fictional content anymore. They're not doing Fox movies or Fox television original productions anymore. And so, but 20th Century Fox, the corporation, is still an independent corporation doing Fox News and Fox Sports, but that's all they're doing. Disney bought Fox's IPs, their intellectual property, which means that now Disney owns that catalog. That's not the same as them buying the company, right? So that didn't go to like Disney Fox. That just went to Disney. They now own these things. So then what does Disney do? Well, they can do whatever they want with them. In the case of, obviously, the Marvel characters for Fantastic Four, then they're like, okay, Marvel, you can have them. And they just gave them to Marvel, right? So that Marvel can now bring the Fantastic Four into the MCU. Freaking awesome. Oh yeah, we got the X-Men here. Give them to the MCU. Freaking awesome, right? That is, and I think, honestly, the only reason Disney went for the Fox deal was to get those two sets of characters. Because they know that the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, that's going to make them $10 billion over the next 20 years. So get them over to Marvel, and it's worth the deal right there. However, as for the rest of Fox properties, they can do whatever the hell they want with them. And they may sit on them for a while, they may not, but we'll find out. Lucas gave Kathleen Kennedy the job under the assumption that Disney was going to replace her. It was meant to be a token reward for years of service. Well, Lucas also thought that Kathleen Kennedy was going to basically be his representative. He thought that she was going to care about what he wanted. She didn't give a crap about what George Lucas did. And if anybody betrayed George Lucas, it was Kathleen Kennedy. YouTube seems to be reward negativity. Good old JP at Egotastic Phone Time. Not all that negative channel. He's been stuck around 20,000 subs for a year or so. Yeah. It's not YouTube. Well, the algorithm does that, and that's the problem. And it's only certain types of negativity, right? If you're a conservative being negative, good luck. You end up getting demonetized and banned. But if you're a liberal attacking conservatives, well, that's okay. Baby Yoda is a Force user. Maybe Mando will eventually have to go up against him, her. Well, from everything they've said, they've referred to Baby Yoda as male in like 3 different episodes now. So I'm assuming Baby Yoda is indeed male. I don't think Mando's going to have to fight Baby Yoda. I think that, and I don't think that would be a smart move. His streams used to get demonetized when he would just go live without saying anything. Oh, me too. I've had that for a long time. You guys know that I was fighting demonetization on the Andy Tracker channel for a long time. And I would start a live stream and it was demonetized before I even opened my mouth. Kirk did talk about Christmas in one of us. Yes, in Dagger of the Mind, they talked about a Christmas party. They also mentioned Thanksgiving in Charlie X, but that's not so much talking about Christ. They were talking about a Christmas party. Thomas says, is Bird of Prey a clone of the Emperor? Funny you should ask. He actually is. He's one of the failed clones. There was Snoke, and then there was Bird of Prey. Bird of Prey was actually first. I was like, oh man, I completely screwed that one up. Then they made Snoke. It's a little better, but needs some work. And then they made the one that worked. Where in the film does Sheev say Snoke was a failed clone? How was he too weak to lead the First Order, yet build a superior Last Order? He didn't learn from Windu, idiot Emperor. Well, first of all, okay, so when in the film does Sheev say Snoke was failed clones? When they show the vat of clones of Snoke. They actually show it on the screen. You see a bunch of vats with dead Snokes in them. And the Emperor says how he created Snoke. How was he too weak to lead the First Order, yet build the superior Last Order? The Last Order, from what I gathered, was built prior to his death, or was under construction prior to his death. He didn't learn from Windu, idiot Emperor, or maybe you can't. Here's the thing: maybe if you are a dark side user and you shoot your lightning and someone reflects it back at you, maybe it's not. You can't just reflect it, because notice that the only times we've seen Force lightning deflected, there's been 3 incidents of it. Twice in the case of Obi-Wan and Rey. Oh, actually 3 times. No, twice. Obi-Wan and Rey did it with, 3 times. Sorry. Obi-Wan, Rey, and Mace all did it with lightsabers. Yoda is the only person they showed able to resist Force lightning just using the Force. Now, the Emperor couldn't do it. Yoda could barely do it. You could see Yoda was like, straining to do it. So, and whatever Yoda's race are, they're ridiculously powerful in the Force, as we can see in The Mandalorian. So if Yoda can barely do it, what makes you think the Emperor can do it? Star Wars was all flash, no real meat to it, but hey, that's okay. Not everything can be as good as Trek. Well, here's the thing. Star Wars is action, adventure, good versus evil, cowboys and Indians, whatever you want to say. It's black and white. It's awesome. I love Star Wars. But Star Wars is not deep. It's not an exploration of the human condition. That's not Star Wars. That's Star Trek. But at the same time, Star Trek, when they do action, unfortunately, a lot of times when Star Trek tries to go action-y, you end up making a mess out of Star Trek. And that's what happened, in my opinion, with First Contact, which is why First Contact, while I'd give it a little bit better rating than Rise of Skywalker, I didn't think it was a great movie. Same thing with Nemesis, same thing with Insurrection. When Star Trek tries to go action, it falls flat. And by the way, even though Wrath of Khan is technically an action-heavy film, if you re-watch it by today's standards, it is boring. A lot of people, if they release Star Trek 2 today, they would say, wow, this thing is a slog fest. Aberjam says, Disney has essentially locked away a huge amount of Fox films so that they cannot be screened publicly, including Die Hard. Well, that's their call. They own the properties. Maybe what they're going to do is release them in 10 years to make money. The Disney Vault worked. Thomas says, I didn't get Disney Plus for The Mandalorian. I got it for the old movies. I got Disney Plus for a combination of The Mandalorian, the Marvel stuff, and the old movies. Richie says, I disagree. Jeremy is a right-wing conservative and very negative and very successful on YouTube because of it. Well, he's successful not because he's a right-winger. He's successful because he's attacking Last Jedi. And that was a very popular thing. And YouTube couldn't stop that from being popular. Heck, even to this day, the most popular video I ever made was my attack on The Last Jedi almost exactly 2 years ago on December 19th, 2017. That is my most popular video. Bit off topic, but does the Bible mention when Jesus was born? I know it might be around springtime and the Christmas was a replacement for a pagan holiday or something. Any idea? Yes, based on, it doesn't actually specifically say the date that Jesus was born. However, you can base it off of a couple of things, which is that Jesus' cousin, John the Baptist, and his birth is mentioned as far as when in the year that took place. And doing some extrapolation, you can see that Jesus was born somewhere near Easter. And so probably in April or May, which means it's possible that me and Jesus share the same birthday. Not that it is of particular import, by the way. Nowhere in the Bible does it say we should be celebrating Jesus' birth. Christmas, I don't have a problem with the Christmas holiday, but it's not a religious holiday. It really isn't. There is nothing in the Bible that says that we should be celebrating Advent. That being said, yes, Christmas itself was, the Catholic Church decided to co-opt some of the pagan holidays that took place in December, mostly revolving around the solstice, in order to get pagans to be willing to join Christianity, because many of the pagans, particularly in northern England, did not want to join the Catholic Church because they did not want to give up their winter pagan celebrations. And they said, oh, but we do it too! And so they came up with Christmas. Dan says, what is today's topic? Well, apparently, the negativity in the Phantom Menace and why I'm an idiot. Richie says, First Contact was awesome, or is awesome. I disagree. I think First Contact was good, but I wouldn't say awesome. I said on Bird of Prey stream, when Bird of Prey was talking about First Contact yesterday, I said, you know what? I'd give Rise of Skywalker a 6. I'd give First Contact a 7. Sheev created Snoke. Snoke was a clone. You're assuming it's a clone of Sheev. If lightsabers are reflecting the lightning, you just stop throwing lightning at them. Well, you know what, Aberjam? You can argue that all day, but then you got to say the same thing about what happened with Mace Windu. You got to say, the same thing about what happened with the Emperor and Yoda. If you want to apply that standard, you have to apply it all the way down the line. So don't just pick on J.J. Abrams for it. You need to pick on George Lucas did it. And, George Lucas, he's the man, right? But as far as assuming it's a clone of Sheev, actually, they do mention that in dialogue. It was actually one of the rebels talking about dark magic and cloning is how the Emperor is still alive. I would love that ornament. Do you mean this ornament? Or are you talking about something else? Oh, you have the Voyager Q. Okay. Who the hell is Sheev? Sheev is Palpatine's first name. Very few people refer to him as Sheev, but yes, that is Chancellor/Emperor Palpatine's first name is Sheev. Jeremy's type of leeching will only allow him to survive. He will become stagnant like he did as a gaming channel. Yeah, but as a gaming channel, he's stagnant like around 3,000 subs. If he's stagnant at 200,000 subs, he'll be just fine. Aberjam says, it's Disney's call. They own the properties. That's exactly what I'm saying about the micromanaging Marvel and Star Wars. If it starts failing, they will step in because they own it. Yes, if it starts failing, sure. But it's not. The reason that Bob Iger stepped in on The Mandalorian is because Star Wars was failing. And so The Mandalorian was the first thing that Bob Iger had any direct influence on. It would be ironic if Jesus and a German guy were born on the same day. That would be kind of ironic, wouldn't it? Some Star Wars video games have force healing ability for light side and force drain for dark side. That's not new to video games. True, and the thing is I know some people disagree with me, but I said during the Midnight's Edge stream, and I maintain that the force healing / force drain abilities, I didn't have a problem with that a bit, because if you want to bitch about that, then you should say that the entire story of Darth Plagueis is BS. Because if Darth Plagueis had the ability to use the Force to stop people from dying, Palpatine said that. He said you could do two things. You could create life, and that you could stop people from dying by using the Force. Stopping people from dying sounds an awful lot like healing. Okay? Now, but it would also be logical that if you can heal someone, you could also drain their life away. I guess we shouldn't be celebrating Auntie Jagger's birthday either. Well, of course, you probably shouldn't. Truck 95 says, you're not an idiot no matter what anyone says. You're just a jerk. Thank you, I think. Carlos says, thank you. And June and July didn't exist then, and that it was a Christian that gave us the modern day calendar, and it's almost as accurate as modern calculations. Oh, June and July didn't exist at the time. Gotcha. Palpatine did cut the lightning against Mace and Yoda. Well, against Yoda actually actually kind of took the lightning and then shot it back at him. As for Mace, you do realize that the only reason the Palpatine's all screwed up in the face is because of his own lightning being reflected back at him. And he's sitting there shooting the lightning, getting scarred up, looking at Anakin going, oh, I'm dying. I can't take it. He should have stopped like a minute ago. Was Sheev ever mentioned on film as the name canon? I'm not 100% sure if they actually say Sheev on film. Doesn't really matter. Jeff is sighing. I'm not sure why. Carlos says, didn't German believe that he was doing what was best for Christianity and humanity? How wrong someone can be. No, I do not think for one moment he thought he was doing what was best for Christianity and humanity. I think he thought he was doing what was best for the fatherland, for Germany. And by the way, I know a lot of people want to believe that Hitler was a Christian because he would address the public saying that he was a Christian. When you look at what he actually did and you look at his personal writings, he clearly was not. He was just using that for propaganda purposes. The Averdan says, the explanation came from Sheev. The Force can do many things that some would deem unnatural. That's a vague MacGuffin statement, not an explanation. That was one thing that he said, yes. He also said that he created the Snoke clones, and it was a rebel that said that it was the dark magic and cloning is what's keeping him alive. But, you know, it's all there. It's just, yes, you have to piece it together, but it is all there. Pretty sure only the dark side gives the power of resurrection, and that was the bait that Sheev used to turn Anakin. Anywhere does it say that you have to be on the dark side? It doesn't. It was Sheev that said that to Anakin to bait him, yes. But that doesn't make it true. It just means that that's what he told Anakin to try and convince him to join the dark side. That if he joined the dark side, he could save Padme. Well, guess what? He probably could have saved her if he, studied on the light side as well. We need a clip of Bird singing hymns for Sunday night live streams. Yeah, we probably do. What you got to do is pay Bird to sing a hymn, record it, and then send it to me. I wonder if Mando checked to see if Baby Yoda is male, if you know what I mean. Well, I'm sure by now he's changed a few little Yoda diapers, so he should know. I don't think any true Christian could do anything like that. Well said. Yeah, absolutely. You cannot be a follower of the teachings of Jesus and slaughter the Jews. You simply can't. In the EU, that many just so love to bring up, they for some reason forget about the fact that Palpy used clones and transferred his soul to said clones. Yeah, that's a funny thing too, Valor. And this is one thing that kind of pisses me off. Is J.J. Abrams in this movie was purposely trying to bring in stuff from the EU. Why? Because a lot of people were pissed that the EU was just disregarded, right? And so JJ, and I can't remember when, but I saw an interview where he said that he was bringing in elements from the EU because he heard the fans upset that the EU was all just simply dismissed. So he's bringing in elements of the EU, and the clones is a part of that, and yet everybody's going Batwoman crazy saying that, oh, it doesn't say that, it doesn't, and it's like, Your own lore that you get so pissed off that they disregarded has that in it. Why do you need him to explain to you what you already know? Resolute says, never say Sheev on film. It was mentioned in a couple of books and originated from a Dark Horse comic. Okay. But depending on the books, I don't know if it was used in one of the books that's considered canon or not. That whole thing is such a mess. Opinions on Lego Bethlehem set. Do you think it's right for them to make those things? I didn't know Lego had a Bethlehem set. I wouldn't be any more against that than I am against Toy Nose Arcs. Richie says Sheev is not canon. Like I said, depends on what books they're in. Trek95 says, what hymn should Bird of Prey sing? I don't know, but pick a good one. My favorite is Well With My Soul. Bird of Prey singing would rock. Well, there you go. So Piano Dean requests a Bird of Prey sing. It is Well With My Soul. Personally, I like my favorite church song that we sing is called So Will I, which is one that I love it because most people that hate Christians would never believe that this song even exists, because this song talks about the age of the universe and it talks about evolution and stuff like that and how beautiful it all is. So if Sheev lied to Anakin about resuscitation, is it possible he lied to Ben about the voices, Snoke, and the nature of his clones? Sure, it's possible. Sheev lies all the time. But, like I said, Aberjam, if in the extended universe, Sheev was using clones to keep himself alive, why do you have such a problem with Sheev using clones to keep himself alive? I really don't understand why you have a problem with this. Using Darkseid for a long period of time can cause your body to deteriorate. Well, also getting hit in the face with Force Lightning reflected by Mace Windu's lightsaber seems to do the trick too. Well, it says, I barely know anything about the EU, yet I knew about that. Well, I don't know a lot about the EU. I've heard that before, but I don't know a lot about the EU. And what the thing is that, here's the thing. Yes, do they spend 20 minutes explaining all of this? No. Do they need to? Not really. I mean, that's the thing. You're asking them to add what's already a movie that I'm sure was cut for time. You're asking for more stuff. The problem is, for all we know, and we'll probably never truly know unless there's an extended cut release sometime in the future, which I would love to see. But we'll probably never know. But it's entirely possible that all that dialogue was in the original cut and had to be cut because of the fact that Kathleen Kennedy said, no, it needs to be less than 2.5 hours. I want Bird to sing Jesus Loves Me. Well, you see, there you go. You guys got a bunch of them, so you just need to start sending them those requests. Many people would say Legoland is Lego's home. I say it's their prison. Bird says, I do not know any hymns other than the Garden of Eden by Ron Butterfinger. Well, here's the thing, Bird. Based on your singing, I don't know that you know any songs. So I don't think it'll make any difference if we just give you the lyrics and say, okay, sing it. What was your Saul moment when you went blind? What was the moment God opened your eyes? That's an interesting one. I don't know. I think that recently I've been dealing, with the leg thing. I think it's when I just started reading about Jacob and his leg. That was kind of one of those moments when I realized that, you know what? So, yeah, God has a plan, but sometimes his plan for you is going to suck and you just got to deal with it. Rational Roundtable. What does the European Union have to do with Star Wars? Wait. Oh, man. Who's bad-mouthing Bird of Prey 5? Well, no, Bird of Prey 5 has a bad mouth. Nobody is bad-mouthing him. I don't have a problem with Sheev having clones of himself. I have a problem with his original body surviving. Nowhere did they say his original body survived. And in fact, he says he was dead. So I take that as he transferred his essence to a clone at the end of Return of the Jedi. And he's probably been sitting there on what, I can't remember the name of the planet, but the Sith homeworld ever since. I won't insult JJ, but he insults me. Wow. Bird of Prey 5 does a pretty decent job with Baby It's Cold Outside. Well, that's only because I help make it, somewhat palatable by changing the voices. Average Jeff says, also, the EU is no longer canon, so Lucasfilm cannot use it as an explanation. They killed off that route. Actually, you're wrong, Aberjam. Just because the EU is not canon doesn't mean they can't use it. They can use it all they want. They own it. That's what you don't understand. People say, oh, well, they can't use the EU because they said it's not canon. No, they can use whatever they want. If they want to do the next Star Wars movies, if they want to do a Thrawn trilogy, they have every right to do it. They own the franchise. Lucas sold it out. Everything Star Wars belongs to Disney. And so if they want to do a Thrawn story, if they want to do Knights of the Old Republic, they can do anything they want to do. Just because they said it's not official canon anymore doesn't mean they can't bring it in. Which they've done on a couple of things already. Bird should sing "Oh Holy Night." There's a nice high note at the end. I would love to hear Bird sing "Oh Holy Night," but that's not the thing. Is "Oh Holy Night" is a Christmas specific song. We need general churchy hymns for him to sing for the Sunday live streams. He insults you because he likes you. Guess he doesn't like JJ. Bird says Christmas song stream tomorrow maybe. Oh, there we go. Nothing but Christmas songs all day tomorrow. You know, that's what we need. It's like a Bird of Prey singing Christmas songs, and then we put like a fireplace log and just have that stream all day on Christmas. Oh man, that would be painful. I do not want to see the film Cats. It looks uncomfortable to watch. It kind of does. Thrawn has already been in the cartoon Star Wars Rebels, but wait, what? That doesn't mean they can't bring in another Thrawn. And honestly, I don't think anybody's, some of the diehards will care, but most people don't even know about what's in the Rebels cartoons. Average says, at no point does Sheev state outright that he was dead. Well, you know what? You're calling him Sheev. At no point do they call him Sheev. So, whatever. And yes, he does. He asked about it, he says, gives his unnatural... No, he says he was dead. He actually does say that in dialogue, Aberjam. You may not remember it, but he actually does say that. Like CBS owns Star Trek fan films and can use them if they want to, but it's their property. Well, actually, it's not the same as that. As far as the Star Wars novels, all those copyrights for those Star Wars novels are transferred to Disney now. They belong to Lucasfilm, but Lucasfilm belongs to Disney. T big ixan used to EU. Resolute. I'm not sure what you did there. T big izan used the EU. Maybe they can use the EU, but it's a cheap cop out. If all they're going to do is rip off the EU, why get rid of it in the first place? Well, first of all, JJ didn't make the decision to get rid of it. Okay, but if he decided to bring something from it, then you should see that as an homage, not an insult. Speaking of songs, what the hell did you release yesterday? A song? You didn't like it? Sorry. It was and read the title. It's my Lament of the Skywalker. And yes, it's a little weird and stuff for me, but it's how I was feeling. They take many things from Star Wars Legends and bring them back to canon. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that because they own it. Piano Dean says, my New Orleans Saints are playing Tennessee Titans today. Don't know if you care about sports ball, but we all know the Saints have to be God's favorite teams. Well, I do know that the Titans are God's least favorite team because they kind of suck. Did Cat type the first part? Yeah, I think the Cat typed the first part. Speak and type went a little crazy. That's all right, Resolute. I got the basic gist of it. But yeah, don't forget that, and that's the funny thing. This is why the fandom is almost as toxic as some people are calling it, is that we get mad that they decanonize the EU, then we get mad because they use elements of the EU. Well, make up your damn mind. Either you don't want the EU to be in it, or you do want the EU to be in it. And so, you say, oh, that's not fair. You took out the color blue. Okay, we'll put blue in. Oh, you're just putting blue in because I said so. Well, yeah. What's your problem with that? I really don't understand. People say, oh, JJ's just trying to appease the fans. Yes, that's his job. What is wrong with that? Why are people bitching about the fact that they are trying to please them? That's like if my waiter comes and gives me the food that I ordered and I say, you just brought this steak because I told you I wanted a steak. Yes! So please, if you want to bitch about the quality of the film, I get that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. If you want to say that the beginning of that film was poorly edited, I will agree with you 100%. If you want to say that you thought that it was silly that Sheev couldn't deflect force lightning that he shot, I understand that, but then you got to go back to the fact that his initial scars were caused the exact same way. And so he's never been able to deflect his own force lightning. So there's nothing out of continuity there. Right? But if you want to bitch about the fact that they dismissed the EU and then they brought in stuff from the EU, you're complaining out of both sides of your mouth. Make up your mind. Either you're anti-EU or you're pro-EU. You know, they're genuinely trying to do something that you will enjoy. Don't complain about the fact that they're trying to do something you will enjoy. You can complain about the execution of it, but don't complain about the fact that they're trying to make something for you. Jeff says, sorry, didn't mean to go on a tirade there. And by the way, I'm not mad at you, Abraham, personally. You know that. DJ did a sports puck video earlier. Well, I don't care about sports puck. Jeff says, no, the Titans are not God's least favorite team. That would be the team that I follow. Oh, I'm sorry. Dan says, the original Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic movie was to be about the origin of lightsaber-wielding warriors. I think that could be cool. Did you know Bird is an employee of the Patriots, hence the cheating? I did not. That makes perfect sense. Carlos says, well said. We want real EU, not this bastardized version. Well, you know what? The thing is, even if they straight up took one of the books and adapted it, you're going to say, well, that's not the same. It's going to be adaptations. Nothing is 100% faithful. There is no way to take a book and make it 100% faithful into a movie. It doesn't work that way. And so to nitpick the fact that they tried to do something that people demanded and then complain because they tried to do something people demanded that's just being argumentative. That's just being toxic. If you want to say, hey, you know what? I think that the editing should have been tightened up. I think it should have been split into two movies. I think that bringing in Palpatine instead of Plagueis doesn't make sense to me. Those are all legit. I have no problem with that. But to complain that they're doing things as fan service is to complain that they're trying to please you. The Jedi we've seen in the film don't like to be called warriors. Wars not make one great. Well, only Yoda said that. Fans are upset that Disney is inconsistent about canon. Do Disney want things to be canon or not? That's the problem. No. The thing is that you're making it that way. What happened was Disney, because here's the thing. The EU, all the Star Wars material out there was way too much. I mean, let's be realistic. If you want to count every novel that was canonized by Lucas as canon, and all the comic books and all this stuff, then you're writing yourself into a corner. You got nowhere to go. You got nothing that works because you have conflicting canon and you have and there's no human being that can sit there and understand all of it. So what did Disney do? They said, we're going to simplify it. All right? Anything outside of the movies in the past is not canon. And by the way, I agree with that. I think that the movies are the only real canon. That being said, that doesn't mean that they can't now look at the books and say, ooh, this is a good story. Let's use it. All right? They own the franchise. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're saying, there's some good elements here that we could borrow. Let's take some of that. And then people bitch because they bring some of it in. You know? Mr. Captain says, at this point, I don't think Disney can win. Even if they make the greatest Star Wars with the most Star Wars storyline, retcon canon, so hand shot first, people still bitch. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter. People are going to complain, even if, and it wasn't, but even if The Rise of Skywalker was the single best movie ever produced, people would be bitching about it. People would be saying it's, and I genuinely feel sorry for J.J. Abrams. I don't feel sorry for Kathleen Kennedy. It's her fault that this thing was a mess in the first place. I will, and you guys know, I'm the first person to say that this sequel trilogy was a hot mess, and J.J. Abrams completely crapped all over a beloved franchise with the blessing of Kathleen Kennedy. And so that there's no excuse for. But to crucify J.J. Abrams for trying to make something that appeases the fans is idiotic. And I mean that idiotic, because you are crucifying a man for trying to do what you want, which means why should they bother trying to do what you want? Why should they give a crap about anything you say if you're going to crucify the guy that tried to appease you? They shouldn't. And you know what? If the next Star Wars movie becomes The Rise of the Rainbow Sabers, then you have nothing to complain about, because you didn't want them to make movies that appeal to you. You want them to make movies that appeal to Kathleen Kennedy. Let's see. Complaining about JJ trying to appease the fans like a woman spending 25 years trying to change a man, then complaining he's not the man she married. Yes. The Browns are God's least favorite team. Are they? I don't know. I don't follow football well enough to know. I do know that God's favorite team is the San Francisco 49ers. I'm an old fan of the EU, and I generally appreciate when they bring EU content back into canon. However, I will admit a lot of it is poorly executed. Well, and that's the thing, though, John. If you want to say it's poorly executed for whatever reason, you have a genuine reason for that. I'm okay with that. I really am. But don't complain that they brought it in. That's why I got a little agitated with Aberjam. It's not the it's not that they, if they bring in, for example, the Emperor using clones to keep himself alive after death, which is an element from the EU. Why in the world would you complain about that when you also, you want to say, well, they need to bring in stuff from the EU? Well, they just did, and you complained about it. I think headcanon is the only canon. I enjoy what you like and expand on their ideas. Well, headcanon is fine for but the thing is, I think that as far as a film franchise is concerned, what's in the films is the only canon. Outside of that, yes, people have their headcanon and their great novels and stuff. There's a bazillion Star Wars novels. There's a bazillion Star Trek novels. Those aren't canon. If they were, it's unfair to the movie-going audience to not know that, all this stuff is going on behind the scenes. Jedi are not warriors. They're meant to be more like marshals. Well, actually, I think they're more like monks. Is it me, or did Yoda talk more normally in episodes 5 and 6 than in the prequels? I'd have to really go back and look. I don't know. I think they do exaggerate his speech pattern. However, the Jedi Knights lost their way when they became warriors. The extinction was only a matter of time after that. Okay. Yeah. Poe backstory in episode 9 doesn't match a canon comic. Well, but the movies are alpha canon, so I don't know about the comic book. But if the Poe backstory in episode 9 doesn't match the comic, well, then it's what's in the movie. I just want Rey to swing from lightning or the golden lasso. You see, now that is so stupid, it's beyond words. To watch someone swing on lightning with a golden lasso, I think is just, that just makes me cringe. Not because, I'm not mad that Wonder Woman has her magic lasso. I'm not mad that she has her invisible plane. I'm not mad that she has all of her powers. But it just looks stupid to see someone swinging on a bolt of lightning. Tom says, I might see Rise of Skywalker on Saturday. Wow, you haven't seen it? I didn't know that. If he chose one idea for fan service and built around that, it would be fine. But JJ just kept throwing stuff to see what stuck. A lot of people say that, but I'm sorry, I don't see it that way. It's not like there's 17 different plots in this movie. There is a plot about Palpatine, and I don't understand why people say that, because yes, the editing is a mess in the first third of this movie, and that was because they were trying to cram too much stuff. But I don't know what the point is. Seeing Yoda riding into battle on a dropship was very disturbing for me, very non-Jedi. Yeah, I didn't particularly care for that either. I also didn't like him using a lightsaber, by the way. Rock Solid says, remember to smash that like button, share via socials, donate if you can, join the Patreon, set chat to live, turn mic and camera on before streaming, and Rational Roundtable loves Ryan Johnson. Wow. No Star Trek novels are not canon. Yes, I know that. I said that. I hope to see Rise of Skywalker tomorrow. All right, Carla, well, let me know what you think. You can say you can let me know if I'm crazy or if I'm just the only person I'm going sane in a crazy world. A good example of recanonization part of the EU is Thrawn. He isn't a bad character in Rebels, but his portrayal is inferior compared to the original novels, in my opinion. Right, but if you want to complain that they even brought, first, if you want to say, oh, well, they could have done them better. First of all, I would say that about, I haven't seen Rebels, but I've been watching Clone Wars, and I'm sorry, the characterizations in Clone Wars, except for Anakin, are crap. Everybody is dumbed down. Everybody is simplified, and you can tell it's made for kids, right? The biggest mistake you make in children's programming is to write it for kids, to dumb it down for kids. Because you know what? Kids like the real Star Wars movies. They can follow real stories and real characters. That's why the Star Trek animated series is so good, because they tried not to dumb it down. But the Clone Wars animated series is dumbed down. You have to, for whatever reason in their mind, to make it for kids. So if Thrawn is dumbed down because it's for a kids show, what are you going to do? Here's a bad image for you. Bird in a Wonder Woman outfit swinging from lightning. Oh, I would pay money to see that. I still like that they used the character. Good. But it's Gal Gadot swinging on it in the bolt of lightning. Nothing wrong with that. Well, I'm not saying Gal Gadot is a bad pick for Wonder Woman. I never said that, except that she's too small. I'm just saying that I think seeing someone swinging on a bolt of lightning is stupid. But it would be hilarious to see Bird of Prey do it. Jeff says, I am not canon. Definitely. Steve says, hello, when people have their whole career hoping the other team fails, you have the U.S. Congress. Yes, indeed. I'm going to see it on Tuesday. Awesome. Carlos says, I don't think you're crazy. You are you and like what you like, and I appreciate that. We all have our own likes, and I'm glad you are not swayed by the masses. Thank you, Carlo. I appreciate that. And you know what? It's difficult at times like this to be able to... I mean, honestly, it would be so much easier if I just started talking about how much it sucked. If I put out a review talking about how it's garbage and, oh, this is horrible, and JJ's just... JJ's just trying to pander to people and all this stuff that people are saying. It'd be so easy to do that and get a whole lot more views. And sometimes I think I should, because I could use the views. And wow, where did that come from? Let's see. Well, thank you. I don't know if you're in right now, but the person that just sent me that nice gift on PayPal, thank you if you're here. Star Trek the Animated Series is canon. Well, actually, not really. As much as I like the animated series, it's not really canon, because you can't have it canon and be... If you have it be canon, everything breaks down, because where are the life support belts? Where are the personal force fields? Where is Satan living in the center of the galaxy? Star Trek Twitter says, episode to watch before Picard, Data Lore, Best of Both Worlds, Family, Iborg, and Voyager episode Raven. Interesting list. So that means I wonder if we're going to have Lore coming back. Interesting that they have Data Lore, Best of Both Worlds, Family, Iborg, but not Descent. I think that's interesting. I don't know what pisses me off more, what they do to invalidate the importance of actual Skywalkers, or people casting hate your way for liking Rise of Skywalker. Well, I don't like that they invalidated the importance of the actual Skywalkers. I said, and I'm sure you've heard me say this, Roxald. I think the ending should have been reversed. I think that, and in fact, when it comes out on home video, I'm going to try to do a fan edit where do exactly that. I think that it was a huge mistake to kill Ben and keep Rey alive and have her adopt the Skywalker name. That was just a huge mistake. But yeah. But people casting hate just because someone likes something, that's just disgusting. I'm sorry. That's why I appreciate you and Captain Foley. Yeah, it's funny, because I actually got a condolence message from Captain Foley, because he agrees with me, and so he saw the crap I was getting. Die Hard is indeed a classic Christmas movie. It is. Wait. Are you wearing a different shirt? Yes, I usually change my shirt. Actually, here's the funny thing about that, Rock Solid, where you see me wear the same shirt 2 days a couple of times, is that because right now, I have sleep apnea, and so I use a CPAP machine. Problem is that my CPAP machine is like 10 years old. It's completely broken. It doesn't work anymore. And several months ago, I went to the doctor to do a new sleep study so that I could get a new prescription, a new CPAP machine, because the one that I had was from an insurance company in Oregon, and that insurance company doesn't exist here, so they needed to get a new prescription. So they said, sure, okay, we'll send the information to the insurance company and we'll get you approved so that we can do the sleep study, blah, blah, blah. Great, awesome. So then several months go by, no word from them. Meanwhile, my CPAP machine completely stops working, and so now I snore like a freaking, chainsaw in the middle of the night, and Mrs. Antrecker can't sleep if I do that. So I've been sleeping in this room right here, my little office bonus room that I have. I actually pulled out a mattress, plopped it on the floor, and I've been sleeping there for the last couple of months because I don't want to keep Mrs. Antrecker up all night with my snoring. And finally, I've been harassing the doctor. I'm doing the sleep study this weekend, so I actually had the equipment hooked up to me last night for part 1 of the sleep study. I do it again tonight. And then hopefully in a week or so, I'll have the CPAP machine and I can start sleeping in my bedroom again. So what does that mean? Well, I don't have all my clothes up here. So when I get up in the morning, I have to put on the same clothes that I had on the night before. And then when I get around to going downstairs, taking a shower and stuff, then I change clothes. And so several times, if I hadn't had my shower yet, I'm still wearing the same outfit as I was yesterday. And then you like to point out that I never changed my clothes. So that's the honest story behind all that, Rock Solid. So there you go, a little insight to how I've been living the last couple of months. Carlos says 50-foot Spock. Yeah, that was an interesting one. I liked it. It was not the best, but JJ did his best to fix or forget The Last Jedi. I agree. It pisses me off that people are casting hate for liking a movie they did not. I don't understand that at all. How can Star Trek V be canon? Well, Star Trek V basically is kind of not. If you notice, Star Trek VI completely ignores Star Trek V. And so there's no, like if you look at Star Trek the Motion Picture is kind of ignored in Star Trek II. But then Star Trek 3 is a direct sequel to 2. Star Trek 4 is a direct sequel to 3. And Star Trek 6 is kind of a direct sequel to Star Trek 4. So yeah, Star Trek V kind of didn't happen. They covered that Satan in Star Trek V. No, because that was a whole different thing. Because Kirk didn't use magic in Star Trek V. I vote Die Hard as the best Christmas movie of all time. I don't know about that, but it's a good movie. I like Krampus better, though. That was a Christmas movie. Some of the new Episode 9 battles in EA Battlefront 2 game didn't even happen in the movie. I haven't played the Episode 9 battles in Battlefront 2. I haven't played Battlefront 2 in a long time. Laurie Loaded calls the animated series the way he does the original series. I'm not sure what you mean there, Thomas. They remade Columbo today. He would be wearing hair gel. Probably. Fan service is good. Throwing in shoehorn members' berries to shut up your criticisms is patronizing. All right, please define the difference. Because what do you consider a shoehorn member berry? Please tell me an example of one. And I'm serious. Give me a specific example of a shoehorn member berry that you're complaining about. Let's see. Have they added anything to the story mode recently? I don't know. Sleep apnea, a bum knee, a bad back. You're a real mess. I really am. I'm falling apart at the seams. I agree with what I've heard. JJ did the best he could with what he had to work with following The Last Jedi. Yeah, exactly. Try doing a sequel to The Last Jedi and having it be good. That's freaking impossible. My overall opinion of Rise of Skywalker is similar to yours, but in any case, there's no excuse for the hate you receive. Thank you, John. I agree, but you know what? These people, I don't know, they want to lash out. And so since they can actually reach me, they can't reach someone like that. So we'll see. If they remade Columbo today, it would be Mrs. Columbo, but she's off in the Delta Quadrant somewhere. Okay. Thomas West says, so far, Rise of Skywalker has made 149,100,000 worldwide. Well, the question is, and it's probably not out yet. But let me see. Because the real question is going to be how, like, its domestic total right now shows 90 million. But what days does that include? That's just Friday. So that's a pretty darn good opening day. But the real question is, how's it going to do for opening weekend domestically? The original projections were about 220. I predicted it would be lower than that. But if they made 90 million on Friday, I'm probably wrong. It's probably going to be a good number. I agree. I think having Ben live keeps the real Skywalker lineage alive. If anything, it redeems the Palpatine family and gives the consequence and weight to the story. I agree. Carlos says, bless you. I hope you are better soon and can return to your normal life for all your family. I appreciate that, but I don't know that there'll ever be a normal life again for me. Let's see. They remade Superman today. You would get Man of Steel. Well, yeah, that was a modern remake of Superman. Gremlins is a great Christmas movie. That's not a bad one. My opinion of the film would have been higher if they had let Rey stay dead and Ben continue the Skywalkers. I agree, John. I've said that several times. Laura says Tass, not Tia. Oh, that's what you mean. Yeah, he says Tass and Toss. I know. I don't know why he does that. I find it just grating the way he says that, but that's the way he talks. He also says shields, so whatever. They added a new planet from episode 9 you could battle on, but then in episode 9 there was no battle on that planet. Oh, okay. By the way, you need to check out my latest video, new podcast. There's a shout out to you in your Borg Queen origin video. Oh, well, very cool. Thank you, Rock Solid. I will check it out when I get a chance. Today, I am going to be working pretty much non-stop for the rest of the day on my Rise of Skywalker review because I want to try to get it out before I leave town tomorrow. You know that Miss Columbo on Columbo was played by Kate Mulgrew? I did not know that. 90 million would be Thursday and Friday. No, well, it just, on IMDb, it just says Friday, but it's probably counting the Thursday money in that because there is nothing listed for Thursday. So I'm assuming that the 90 million is Thursday and Friday. But like I said, when the original predictions were 220 million, my prediction was between 150 and 175. So we'll see. We need to give Chewie a medal. Let's just have Maz give it to him on the end celebration. No celebration or recognition from his peers. Shoehorn member berry. Well, okay, so let me ask you this. And yes, Joe, I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so we need to give Chewie a medal, and we have Maz give him one at the end celebration. So Maz gives him the medal that Leia was looking at earlier, right? And so what's wrong with that? First of all, are you mad that Leia was looking at it earlier in the film when she was trying to focus? And if Leia is dead now, I don't know if you've had anybody that you know well die. It can be a very and I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but that can be a very difficult time. But something that is commonly done when people die is certain items that have sentimental value are given to people that have a sentimental feeling towards it. My guess, and while they don't blatantly say it, but here's what I think. I think that is Han's medal. And so I think that, remember, Leia and Han were a thing. They didn't really say if they were married, but they had a kid. And I think Maz gave Han's medal to Chewie now that Leia is passed. And I don't have a problem with that because unless you want to say that, but now, is it a member berry? I don't know. I call it a callback. I think it is a little bit of fan service, but I don't see how it disrupts the story. So I disagree with you on that one. Logan's Run is awesome. I think it was all right. Could stand to be a remake. Steve says George Lucas including many callback or call forward a few moments in the old trilogy, the prequels, but again, George Lucas had a plan for each of his trilogies. Yeah, that's the biggest problem. It's not the member berries, it's not the fan service, it's not the EU stuff. It's the fact that Kathleen Kennedy made a trilogy without a roadmap. That is the problem. 150 million is about half of the low-end projections for Rise of Skywalker. Actually, the low-end projections were lowered. Remember, we're talking domestic box office. The projections were originally much, much higher. They thought it was going to be a new world record setter. The projections were reduced to about 220 million. But I think that's still too high. I didn't like episode 3 video game. Had a lot of hard stuff that wasn't even in the film. I don't remember it. What is your Christmas live stream schedule? Good question. So Christmas is going to be a crazy busy day. So me, Mrs. Antrick, and Joshua are going to go see the movie in the morning. And then immediately, we're going to go see Spies in Disguise. When we get home, Mrs. Antricker is going to cook while I do a late morning live stream. And then I'm going to try to do a members only stream, which will be the first stream ever done on our new Vimeo account. Yes, I actually have the Vimeo account set up. So this is the official. You guys are the first to find out outside of Bird of Prey and Mr. Miles. So Vimeo is a private streaming service. Well, not just streaming, but Vimeo can... it allows you to post videos just like YouTube and stream. Streaming was actually recently added to it. And the nice thing about Vimeo, and I'm trying to bring it up right now on the screen. Okay, so here's the Vimeo interface. I'm still learning some of this stuff as far as how it all works. But once we have this this Vimeo account set up, one difference between this is a pro account on Vimeo. One big difference between this stream and streaming on YouTube, or actually any video we put on Vimeo compared to YouTube, is that Vimeo, because it's a pro account, has 0 copyright regulations. I can put anything I want on there. But here's the catch. I also don't get ad revenue or anything on the Vimeo account. So the Vimeo account will be strictly for subscribers of antitrekker.com and Patreons. There were not, the Vimeo stuff will not be for the general public. However, once we have content on the Vimeo account, we'll talk about it so that, you know, hey, for $2 a month, you can subscribe on antitrekker.com and get access to it. All right. Let's see. They had the Millennium Falcon in the original trilogy. I forget if it's episode 1 or 3. Well, the Millennium Falcon, are you talking about the original trilogy, or are you talking about the prequel trilogy? I think you mean the prequel trilogy. Oh, and I may be on Midnight's Edge After Dark if they're streaming that night. I believe you see a YT whatever cruiser in episode 2. It was the scene when Anakin and Padme are going to Naboo, and they show a shot of the spaceport, and you see it. Did Maz and Chewie hook up? Good question. It kind of looked like it, yes. Now everybody's doing trilogies and prequels. Yeah, trilogies I don't mind. Prequels I don't like. But I don't think anybody should do a trilogy without planning it out. And it's funny because the exact opposite of that is if you look of what we got with the Star Wars sequel trilogy is the MCU. I mean, freaking, you know, Kevin Feige planned out movies 10 years in advance, and holy crap, did he pull that off. Howdy, Mr. Friend Buddy. Hope you had a good day and your family have a great Christmas. Thank you, Wolverine. I will be out of town tomorrow afternoon. Me and Mrs. Antrekker are celebrating our anniversary, but then Christmas is going to be a busy day. I'm going to be spending mostly with you guys. Disney was banking on 380 to 400 million worldwide. Yeah, they were banking on that, but they're not going to get it. I wonder if Lucasfilm did have an overall plan for this final trilogy, but scrapped it when they realized it was crap. I don't know. I know that George Lucas had his idea, which seemed a little weird. But why Kathleen Kennedy didn't say, you know, because here's the thing. JJ was initially offered to do all 3 movies, and he turned it down. He said, no, it'd be too much. He can't handle it. And they wanted JJ because, I mean, Star Trek 2009 shows that he can do a Star Wars movie, right? So they said, oh, we want JJ. And we want you to do this trilogy. He said, no. They said, okay, well, just do the first one then. And so JJ mapped out this trilogy apparently in his head, but then when they hired Rian Johnson's like, well, do I have to go by JJ's plan? She's like, no, you can do whatever the hell you want. That was the biggest mistake in the history of cinema. What they should have done is if they say, JJ, we want you to do a trilogy, and he says no, they say, okay, have a nice day. Who else we got? Hey, Rian Johnson, you want to do a trilogy? Yeah, sure. Okay. Now, granted, a Rian Johnson trilogy probably would have been much worse, but we want the trilogy to be helmed by one person. By doing this, you know, hey, let's just hire somebody at the last minute to direct. JJ was not the original director for episode 9. That guy got fired because Kathleen Kennedy has this problem firing people. And so they brought JJ back in desperation. But the, you know, if they had brought, you know, if they go, hey, Ron Howard, let's do a trilogy, you know, whoever, but at least you'll get something consistent. But no, we didn't get Average Jeff says Chewie absolutely deserved his medal, but he should have been his medal in a ceremony, not a hand-me-down. Right, but I could see that Chewie would want Han's medal. By this time, member berries are member berries. Okay. Scientific Glenn says Star Trek Discovery seasons 1 and 2 were more entertaining than all 3 Disney Star Wars films put together. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. I would say that Star Trek Discovery seasons 1 and 2 were probably more entertaining than The Last Jedi, but not The Force Awakens or The Rise of Skywalker. I do not want to hate on The Rise of Skywalker. I do not want to hate on these Disney Star Wars movies, but I just do hate them. I can't help it. It's all right, Steve. If you don't like them, that's fine. I don't have a problem. If you watch the movie and you find it distasteful or whatever, I don't have an issue with that. I just have a problem with casting hate at J.J. Abrams for trying to fix it. I'm working Christmas night, New Year's Eve night. Money is what I need, and that's how to get more quickly. Ah, it sucks. I'm sorry, my friend. Chewbacca was Han Solo's pet Wookiee and then became Rey's pet Wookiee. Just kidding. Well, actually, it's kind of funny because Chewbacca was kind of treated that way, and he shouldn't have been. The actual answer is Chewbacca didn't get a medal because he was too tall. Yes, I know that's true. Actress Carrie Fisher could not reach. In novelization, he got the medal. Yeah, I remember in the novelization it said that it actually says he was too tall, and they gave him the medal after the ceremony. But in the films, he never got a medal. And films are what's actual canon, not the novelization. From what I heard, spoiled from The Rise of Skywalker, it's just not what I'm into. Well, then, wait until it comes out on home video. So who can watch your Vimeo stream? Anybody who, once we get it going, it'll be anybody who is a subscriber, a paid subscriber on antitrekker.com or a Patreon. So if you are one of those two things, you will be able to do it. What you can do is you'll get a notification via email when we're doing a live stream. We usually do them on Wednesdays, and then, or if you have Patreon, you get notifications from Patreon, however they do it. Do they charge just to watch Vimeo? No. You can go to Vimeo right now and watch videos. However, depending on the content creator, like, it's kind of cool. You can set, like, I can post a video that's public. I can post a video that's only for certain people. I can post a video that you actually have to pay money to watch. Like, like an on-demand thing. Like, hey, pay $5.99 and you can watch this documentary I made, kind of thing. And so what some people will do on Vimeo is put out a trailer for something, and then it'll say you can pay $2 or whatever to see the full video. Some people just post their stuff on there. As a Christian, I pray for Kathleen Kennedy every day. Oh, as do I. There's an Easter egg of the Falcon in episode 3. Was it episode 3? I thought it was episode 2 for some reason. What was up with the Lando native chick scene? Well, that's another thing. It got cut out, but the native chick, first of all, she wasn't native. She was a stormtrooper. Remember, there was a group of stormtroopers living on that planet. And she is a former stormtrooper similar to Finn. And in the apparently deleted scene, she is actually Lando's daughter. And so they cut that out, unfortunately. Back to the Future is a great Xmas trilogy and can be a great Easter trilogy or Halloween trilogy too, if you prefer. Okay, I suppose. Chewbacca could have knelt down to receive his medal from Leia in the first film. Yes, but that's not what they did. Jeff says, I'm truly sorry your life has been upended. Praying for better days out of you. Thank you, Jeff. Steve said, I also pray for the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and late night talk show host Stephen Colbert. Well, and don't forget, honestly, pray for the president. Donald Trump, whether you love him or hate him, he needs prayer. Roxanne says, have you ever considered simulcasting YouTube and Twitch? Yes, but to make any money on Twitch, you have to sign an exclusive agreement with that, and I'm not interested in that. Plus, I don't do a lot of gaming, which is what Twitch is really for. Honestly, I don't see the point in doing Twitch because my audience on YouTube is not going to suddenly double in size because I'm on YouTube and Twitch. Disney is obsessed with making a trilogy and or trilogies. Well, not necessarily. I mean, Star Wars has been done in trilogies from the beginning, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe has never been about trilogies. So I don't see why you'd say Disney is obsessed with trilogies. Going forward, Favreau overseeing Star Wars movies, Filoni producing, and Mangold directing. I like Chow, but she needs a little more experience for directing the movies. Well, first of all, we don't know if Chow. I think Chow, and it's actually CHOW, not CHAU. But she, I think, directed the 2 best episodes of The Mandalorian. As far as Filoni, I quite frankly think he's overrated. I don't mind Filoni as a producer, but I wouldn't want him directing. Mangold, sure, but I actually would prefer John Favreau. Now I can't say his name. Favreau directing, even though I would want him in charge. I agree. I think John Favreau should be running Lucasfilm right now. Well, I heard Jimmy Carter was already praying for them, but I guess I can add mine to his too. Well, yeah, Jimmy Carter. You know, Jimmy Carter's funny. He was a horrible president. He was the best ex-president in history. Every little bit helps Steve. Okay. What's a VHS? It's a, oh God, what is it? Very high, I don't know. I'm not sure what VHS stands for now. It's a video cassette, but yeah, I'm trying to remember what it stood for. VHS actually is an acronym, but I can't remember what for. Prefer Betamax? Well, that's because you're one of those snobs. Tom says, okay, I signed up for Vimeo. Now what? Well, you don't have to sign up for it, Thomas. You'll get notifications from, when I stream, just like you do for the standard, for the Patreon streams now. What's the square at the bottom for? The square at the bottom of what? I have no idea what you're talking about, Carlo. Do you know if we need a Vimeo account to watch? No, you do not. As far as I know, you just click on the link, and just like you do for the Patreon streams. I was told, but you'll probably need a Vimeo account in order to comment in the chat. I was told Twitch, you can monetize your stream 7 times in 30 days, no exclusive needed. Okay, but what's the point, though? That's my point. It wouldn't increase my audience to be on Twitch necessarily, and it would just create more of a headache for me to try and stream to 2 places at once. He couldn't kneel in the Wookiee suit properly, so they cut it. Ah, I did not know that. Let's see. Steve says, yes, I pray for President Trump too. He does need praying for, as well as all world leaders. Agree. Video head system, video home system. I think it might be video home system, but I'm not sure. Jeff says video home system as well. You don't need a Vimeo account. The link comes in the email or on Patreon. Will be on Vimeo instead of YouTube. Yes, but you would probably need a Vimeo account to comment in the chat. So yeah, and Bert and I are learning this stuff, so bear with us for a little bit, because Vimeo is a very different platform than YouTube, but it's where we're going to put all the Patreon exclusive and subscriber exclusive content. So we're going to start putting videos there where you guys will get early access to certain videos on Vimeo, and then they'll be launched on YouTube. And since the copyright, there are no copyright bots in Vimeo, so we can actually do fan edits of TV shows and movies and stuff and put them on Vimeo and not have to worry about the evil copyright bots. But since we also don't get ad revenue, that's why only paid subscribers will have access. Unless Twitch recently changed, you couldn't stream to YouTube and Twitch at the same time. I think XSplit is capable of it, but I'm not even worried about it. VHS Voyager has 7 of 9. And let's make sure to remember to just keep praying for Christians that they will get saved. Okay, just joking. Actually, you know what? Here's the funny thing about that, Steve. There are a ton of Christians that are not saved. So that's actually not a bad thing to say. So you can play CNET on Vimeo and play Jackbox on here. Yes, actually, Thomas, I would be able to play CNET on Vimeo. So that's actually something that I will finally be able to do on the Vimeo streams. Leia could have offered the medal up to Chewie, then Chewie just puts it on. There's always a simple and effective solution. You still have to work within the confines of that suit. And I don't think that Peter Mayhew would have been able to actually put it on wearing those heavy gloves with the big fur, and it would have looked awkward. And Roxelle says, I've been streaming to both YouTube and Twitch in the last few, and you see, and that's why you're struggling with your sub count. Just focus on YouTube. I mean, you couldn't stream to YouTube and Twitch and be monetized by Twitch. Yes, it's possibly technically, yeah. The Lion King 1.5 is a terrible movie. Story set in the first film from a different point of view with Timon and Pumbaa. They're also watching on. They are also watching on cinema screen. They're also watching on a cinema screen. I'm not sure. What? Oh, well, I've never seen Lion King 1.5. Never had any interest in seeing it because I didn't like The Lion King. I know that's like sacrilege. Everybody thinks The Lion King is the greatest movie in the world, but I'm sorry. The moral of The Lion King is it's okay to be a dick. And so I don't like that. I do not like that movie one bit. All right, so with that, I am going to wrap things up here, guys, because I do have a ton of work to do. Piano Dean says, I hope Gary at Nerdrotic becomes a Jesus follower one of these days. I know he's heavily into AA, which has a lot of God in it. Yeah, I don't know what Gary's personal theological beliefs are. I've never asked him, but I hope so too if he's not. Another edit to episode 4, flying R2-D2 putting a medal on Chewie. Oh, that would be horrible. Self-professed Christians, if they were actually Christians, they would be saved. Well, yes. Good call out there on that. But yes, there are Christians that claim to be Christians that do things that are definitely not Christian-y, if you say. Like, for example, Westboro Baptist Church. I know that's the easy example to go through. But there are plenty of Christians that say they're Christians, and then everything they do is the exact opposite of what the Bible says to do. And that's a problem. The moral of The Lion King is Shakespeare is not for kids. No, the moral of The Lion King is it's okay to be a dick. Have a good day. I'm going to watch Bird for First Contact, the movie you hate. I don't hate it. Jeez. I've only streamed both last week, so no effect on sub count. Okay, well, we'll see. Maybe your sub count will rocket up now, Rock Solid. I hope so, because you deserve it. All right, guys, so take care. I'm going to try to get some work done, and so hopefully I'll have that review done tomorrow morning, and then, yeah, I mean, Mrs. A-Trekker can go have some fun at Medieval Times.
You son of a bitch, Anti-Tracker! 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 You son of a bitch, Anti-Tracker. You son of a bitch, Anti-Tracker. Bitch, Anti-Tracker. You son of a bitch, Anti-Tracker. You son of a bitch, Anti-Tracker. You son of a bitch!